NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. America at War continues with Tom Brokaw reporting from Kuwait City and Jane Pauley in Washington.
Good evening once again from Kuwait City, a city that is now celebrating its first full night of liberation. And for Kuwait and for the rest of the world, the light at the end of the tunnel appears to be burning very brightly tonight. President Bush is scheduled to address the American people at 9 tonight, and it does appear that the war is all but over, if it is not over completely. NBC's John Cochran is at the White House now with the latest details on what the president is likely to say. John?
Tom, in an 8 to 10-minute address from the Oval Office tonight, the president will say that essentially the war is over, the Allied coalition has won. The president, however, will not be announcing a ceasefire because Iraq has not met all of those 12 United Nations resolutions. The president will express his concern that the Iraqis could still launch a Scud attack, Scud missile attack, and if that happens, certainly the Allied forces would retaliate. The president will also say that the pressure must continue to get Iraq to meet all of those UN resolutions, including reparations for Kuwait. Tom?
John Cochran, you heard the Saudi ambassador to the United States tonight, Prince Bandar, talk about the possibility of Saddam Hussein being held responsible for war crimes. What does the president have in mind for once the war is over about Saddam Hussein?
Well, the president would like the Kuwaitis to take the lead on this. After all, they're the people who suffered most, who suffered so terribly. So the feeling here at the White House is that for political and just practical reasons, it should be the Kuwaitis who would take the lead. George Bush will gladly see that Saddam Hussein is tried, but it will be in absentia, Tom. There's no planning here at the White House to go in and grab Saddam Hussein and bring him out to Kuwait City where you are.
All right, John Cochran, we'll await the president's speech tonight at 9 Eastern Time. Today, General Norman Schwarzkopf said, of course, that the gate is closed. There is no escape for those Iraqi troops, which are just north of here. They have been fighting a pitch battle all day long. They lost at least 3 of their best divisions, probably more than that as the fight went on into the night. Fred Francis reported as well that many of the troops were seen now fleeing toward Iran. Here in Kuwait City tonight, it is a time of celebration, but also reflection for what they have been through in the last 7 months or so. Linda Bester for NBC News went to a neighborhood in this capital city tonight.
This is the first night Kuwaitis have been able to socialize freely in the streets. Now these neighbors are telling horror stories.
24 hours they hit us. Take the boys, take the mans, take the youngs, take the girls also, and hit them, and kill them, and put them in front of the door, and call their father and mothers, come out and see your son and see your daughter.
Mohammed Ramadan lost 2 male cousins.
After 1 week, they bring him in front of the door, house, and shot him. His mother didn't know. The other one, they found the gun on his house. They put it in the ceiling, the house. They come and broke everything on the ceiling, and they got the gun. After 1 month, they killed him in front of his house.
Kuwaitis feel betrayed not just by the Iraqis, but also by Palestinian collaborators here.
The Palestinians, they were like a hyena. Tell them everything about the Kuwaiti, about the officers, about our government, even the identity card. They know everything from them, from the Palestinian people.
These are the stories that have started pouring out of Kuwaiti mouths now that they have a free voice again. Linda Vester for NBC News in Kuwait City.
And NBC's Brad Willis was in the streets of the city all during the night and during the day as well. Brad, there are those continuing stories about atrocities that were committed against the Kuwaiti citizens. What did you hear today from the people that you talked to?
Well, Tom, even while they were celebrating, they did pause and reflect about that. I had several men come up to me and tell me their daughters were raped by Iraqi forces, and then their daughters were shot right before their very eyes. I had several women almost in tears tell me, my son was taken by the Iraqi forces and taken up north. Since they invaded, I haven't seen my son again. Today, I'm celebrating my freedom, but never again will I see my son. Now, these stories are everywhere throughout the city. You can obviously see the atrocities committed against Kuwait City simply by driving through here. As far as where the victims of these atrocities are, we have yet to see them, but the stories are everywhere and they're coming from the hearts of the people.
And Jane Pauley raised the question as well earlier about the possibility of booby traps left behind by the Iraqi forces. Is that a concern here?
That's a very deep concern. On the outskirts of the city, we have already seen some booby traps. We came through some areas that were heavily booby trapped. We heard a story of one Marine being caught in one 2 days ago and actually having lost his life in a booby trap. There's great concern that here in the city, they left behind many booby traps in some of the buildings that have been bombed and burned out. Forces are already going in certain sectors of the city, door to door, to check for that, to look for possible snipers and explosive traps that might have been left behind here.
Those reports of the Iraqi troops taking hostages as they fled to the north, much to that?
Well, the people say they did. Again, Kuwaiti citizens that I spoke with said some of their family members were taken by the Iraqi forces to the north, and they say also that all of their belongings and possessions were plundered, and they have very little, that from the very beginning, their people and their possessions were taken north.
All right, thank you very much, Brad Willis, who's here with us in Kuwait City. I'll tell you as well, just beyond us in the darkness, there is a cosmopolitan and very sophisticated city. It has no power tonight whatsoever. We'll be back in a moment, and Jane Pauley will be reporting more from New York.